Thank you for joining us on our journey here to preserve the history of mixed martial arts. When I wanted to take on this project, I needed help. I brought in one of my favorite matchmakers, Miguel Iturrate, and the MMA Detective, Mike Davis. So to do this, we've been able to preserve history. Welcome and enjoy.
Welcome to the Lights Out Podcast. My name is Mike Davis, along with me, Miguel Iturrate. Miguel, we've got a special guest, Joey Gilbert. We are going to do some ADCC history here, and it's going to bring us back to March 1st, 2000, back in Abu Dhabi, where this guy, Joey Gilbert, makes quite a splash. Before we talk to Joey, Miguel, how does he wind up in an already stacked bracket?
So we're in the early years of Abu Dhabi. It's 2000. They've done 2 tournaments. It went 98 from like a shadowy tournament that got a lot of praise, but not a lot of people heard about, to 99, which was an explosion. Now 2000 was a full-on coming out party, where I think 2000 still may be 2000, 2001, those years may be the most talent they ever had.
Right.
And in terms of also crossover to MMA, I'm not talking, jiu-jitsu is different now. So, but for those days, these were cream of the crop tournaments. By 2000, there were qualifiers. In 1999, the Sheik had done a press conference, and people had asked him about getting in the tournament and things, and the idea of qualifiers came out of there. And I got to do the American qualifiers, which were the first ones in North America. And oddly, in the old days, the 65.99 kilo category was hard to fill. We talked about the first year in Abu Dhabi, it was 8 men. And I guess they could have filled it with Brazilians, but you had, Americans weren't quite ready in that weight class yet. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere comes, a Michigan State All-American, a guy with real credentials, and a guy with, also already getting mixed into MMA and stuff like that. And when you meet Joey, he's always very serious. How you doing, Joey? He was always very serious and always took everything very seriously. So it was easy to present him as somebody that they should look at. And I think he went over as an alternate originally.
Joey, what was your experiences like? How did you get involved?
Well, let me correct something. I went to Michigan, not Michigan State. That's a bad word to me.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God. I'm so sorry.
But, and the other thing, dude, I like to, Miguel was a huge part. I like to thank Miguel for all he did for me, man. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been in Abu Dhabi or USC. So I really appreciate it. Never really got the chance to tell him. And, Mike, too, you're a great guy. You do great, guys, thank you for like all the hard work you do in the local scene and international scene with all the fighters. So I appreciate you guys, man. I appreciate you being on the show, too.
So Joey, you get the call to ADCC. Did the magnitude of that event at that time, did it even register to you?
No, I wanted to be there, man. I mean, because we're huge, man. Like older brother, I got an older brother, G. He's like all in the MMA. He's the one that kind of got us into to that track. And we were always on the internet, and that was hard back then, the internet, That was like different story. But heck yeah, man, I seen the ACD because there used to be a thing back that came out one year called the Contenders. It was held in Cedar Rapids. It was all submission, I don't know if you guys remember that. But
Yeah.
It's great to be in this great submission tournament, and then ADC came out, and I just wanted to be in it, and then things started to click, with Miguel and having hook and shoot and the qualifiers and getting a hold of him. And my brother did the qualifier. I went down there, and that's where I met Miguel. And like you said, they didn't have a 65 qualifier. So, I go, hey, man, what's the chance of me getting into it? And then we talked about it. And I probably weighed about 170 at the time, and I think he's like looking at me like, dude, you really want to go 145? I'm like, man, that's no problem for me,
Well, your first opponent, Luciano Enrique Roca. Very interesting bout, a top-notch black belt Brazilian. You had a lot of north-south choke, at least the positions in that bout. You want to walk us through it?
Well, I think I had I think the first Abu Dhabi I had a good strategy. I mean, it ended up being a good strategy. It worked. And, even when I wrestled in high school and college, I was wrestling off my knees. And so I kind of stayed on one knee. And that's how I wanted to wrestle them, you know, and I go back leg singles on these guys because a lot of these Brazilian guys at the time, they weren't really doing, you know, hardcore wrestling like they do now. You know, they're not going into wrestling rooms and understanding wrestling. They weren't even tying up. I remember a couple of times I faked on the guy. He didn't even move. I'm like, man, this guy doesn't really understand takedown sits. So I ended up back leg single. I'm getting to the side mount. That was my goal, side mount to north-south choke, you know. That was my goal to do on every guy out in that tournament.
So you get through him. Miguel, he hasn't made any waves yet. But his next opponent, Alexandre Pequeño Franca, that was one of the tournament favorites.
Well, I don't want to say he hadn't made waves yet. I think he instantly made waves when he hit the mat in Abu Dhabi because he was an unknown. He came in as an alternate. So as you pointed out, he couldn't have been more than a 14, 15, 16 seed, you know, the way things hashed out. Keep in mind too, Abu Dhabi's learning lessons here because they're bringing in alternates and things like that. So they've been scrambling around before, and now they're taking care of business. And the alternates are starting to have, you know, some depth. So he gets in there. He's up against one of the higher, you know, rated Brazilians there. As you know, this weight class has never been won by anybody not Brazilian, right? So, you know, to impact this weight class, to knock out a Brazilian, he got their attention from the very beginning. And I think he recognized, I think his wrestling credentials too gave him very much like it was Joey against the Brazilians. I felt that way. And I think there was some of that out there, you know. Once he beat one of their top guys, they were all watching. I don't remember where the Paixão match is or if that was next year and stuff, but like some of those
guys, the following year.
Okay, we'll get to that one, but like they had him on his radar, and they gave him. I mean, that was a dirty match. That was a match that got dirty with Paixão, and that was because Paixão knew exactly what he was facing. He was facing a fucking wall.
Well, Joey, let's talk about Franca, Pequeño. The rule set. A lot of times, the Brazilians will show up at the rules meeting early, and they're masters at either understanding or manipulating the rules. Were you at that rules meeting, or how hard did you study that?
No, I just read the rules that they gave us, you know. You know, and it's coming from wrestling back then. Our wrestling rule book is, you know, like this thick. They gave me, I think I got like a sheet of paper of the rules, you know. And that's the first time I understood judo like a little bit, and like, but you know, it's the first time we're dealing with negative points and, you know, aggressive. But you know, I think that Abu Dhabi is like they're making up stuff while you're going along the refs. You know, so
did you know who Pequeño was?
Yeah, I know. You gotta remember, man, I got two brothers, like, you know, and you know Danny well. Danny knows everybody and everything. Submission. So to say the name, he's gonna know the guy. He's gonna know his background. So I know what we're getting into. You know, he told me about who he is. We knew about his choke, you know.
Yeah, he's a Luta Libre prodigy, Shudo champion, the longest reigning, he might be the longest reigning world champion, like ever, you know, across the board, went over 7 years.
Right, and he was a Shudo guy, you know, we knew the Shudo guys. We wanted to be in Shudo, you know. To us, man, we're excited to be in this world, you know. That's what we want to get to. And that was the first step, and we knew all the guys.
Yeah,
so Joey, he got a little contentious during that bout as well. You guys had a couple headbutts going back and forth, like small little headbutts. He hit you with one, you returned the favor. Did you think it was going to continue escalating?
That's fine, man. I mean, yeah, you know, he was like, yeah, you know, he was kind of like me, man. He's like this mean dude, man. He wanted, you know, whatever he's going to get a hold of, he's going to get a hold of it, man. He's going to try to get in your head a little bit, I feel like. You know, I think that's how those guys are from Brazil. You know, they're tough kids, man. And they want to make it into a fight. But, you know, that's fine with me, man. I like to have that pace. You know, I've already had that pace with those guys. I don't think those guys at the time, could really go with that pace. Being physical like that and using that energy, you know? That's a lot of energy you're using when you're getting upset out there.
He went for I think it was an ankle lock at the end of the first round, kind of went for broke.
Oh, yeah, knee bar right?
Was it a knee bar?
I felt like it was more like a knee bar.
Was it close?
No, I don't know. He was holding on to it. I had no pressure on my knee or anything. You know, and that time I was just trying to slow roll out of it, you know, just what we work on in practice.
Yeah, and like just to talk, I think now you're into a little bit of what Joey mentioned of what made him different and what got everybody's attention right away there. For example, Jeff Munson, Mark Kerr, elite wrestlers. You got a guy, they have a guy in front of them on their back. They would stand in front of them and stalk. And Gilbert wouldn't. Gilbert would engage. He'd grab a foot and work to pass the guard and start the scrambles at that 145-pound wrestler's pace, which is really a very, very different type of thing that nobody saw in Abu Dhabi until he put it on display. And like the Brazilians couldn't really handle it either, because jiu-jitsu does at that high level sort of slow down a little bit, get to be a chess match. And Joey's, you know, playing three-dimensional chess. You know, I don't know how to describe it, but that's what shocked him, was that pace. And he came in shape, and that's what he wanted to exploit. And he knew enough to stay out of submissions, and you know, that was going to be his game. But he had them on alert immediately. And then Pequeño when he sends Pequeño home, like you said, I mean, Pequeño's a Shudo champion. Pequeño finishes out of the official money in Abu Dhabi here. So, like, he's not in the prize money. If he didn't get a sponsorship, he fought for free. Maybe he got a sponsorship, but, you know, at that point, he didn't have any stellar performances either, so who knows? So he may have fought for free, and that's where it gets serious with headbutts and stuff.
And we sat next to it on the last flight, on the last leg of the plane line. I had to sit next to him, right next to him the whole time.
Like going in or going out?
Going in.
Oh, okay. So
That didn't bother you at all, did it?
Nah, I just play my Game Boy. I think he was more interested in my Game Boy I had, you know, at the time.
Nice.
So where does your jiu-jitsu come from, Joey? Like, if you had to trace it back.
This, you know, we're kind of fortunate enough, you know, Joe Cortia, you know, get to know Joe, you know, and he had a, you know, we at the time I was with Joe Cortia, and he, you know, we just went off of his jiu-jitsu and any tape we could find, you know, didn't matter. We just tried to wherever we could find, and you know, ran in some judo guys and just watching, you know, and trying to do it in practice and go over it.
Like videotapes.
Yeah. That's it. I said,
old school.
There's a bunch of, but you know, you gotta remember, man. I mean, at the time Matt Hughes was coming out, we had some good guys, man. It was, you know, everybody's helping together. We're trying to figure this out, man. Because there was not a lot of Brazilian guys out there. You know?
How much weight did you cut for this?
I don't know, like 30 pounds.
Okay. What about like week of?
You know, I was really surprised when I got to Abu Dhabi how light I was. You know, I was lighter than I thought. But, you know, I was active. You know, I just switched my eating. You know, remember, I was working 10 hours a day too and training. So I was burning a lot of calories. And the night before I went to Abu Dhabi, we had like a foot of snow, I think, and I was shoveling it. You know, it was like, you know, my body was just burning. I think it was really easy. I think I was only like 5 pounds when I got there.
Oh, wow.
I was really shocked when I got down, like, man, I'm going to about pull off. If I'm 10, I'm happy, you know. 10's no problem. I could get it, you know. And I was like 5, you know.
Cool.
Wow. So your third match, Soca, Alexandre de Freitas. It's a pretty contentious match. You had issues with getting past this guard. It was like one of the first times where a Brazilian could kind of keep you like in between his legs, and you were having issues. Like, you tried so many different angles to get around it too.
No, but that match I had him I popped his ankle pretty good in the ankle lock, and that's why I went for that. And then after that, yeah, you know, but he was slick, man. He's flexible, and I always had a little bit of trouble with those guys. Even the guys I, you know, roll with afterwards, the same. Absolutely, he was slick. Yeah, he's one of the best jiu-jitsu players in the world, man. He's probably been training since he's like 5 or something.
Yeah, Miguel, you're muted.
I was gonna say, so have you, Joey.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
5.
when we talk about like the amount of like miles on a car that are necessary before it gets broken in, I mean, Miguel in our pre-fight, we talked about 20,000 hours is really what a grappler needs. And, Joey, you had obviously surpassed that, but so had he. Like the amount of on-mat experience that both you had was probably about even.
Yeah.
I
think he understood what was going on a little bit better than me at that tournament about, because I went for like a WWE move on him, like a roll foot lock on him and out of bounds. And I thought we'd roll out of bounds, and next thing you know, they're putting him on my back.
You know what? Truth be told, I watched this over and over. So Joey is playing the edges of the mat. He's real smart. He's only engaging when he wants to engage. And it's got to be like really frustrating on somebody that wants to engage with Joey, and Joey's wrestling is so good where he's like, no, I'm going to do it when I want to. So in essence, it was like the one guy that saw an opportunity on the edge of a mat where he got your back. I think he caught the one time that you were relaxing, which isn't often, and they kept him on your back. I know that you were arguing about the positioning. I think both of you guys were probably right.
I just felt like I initiated the move, and we roll out of bounds, and they kept wrestling. But where you're right, that's the thing. You got to keep wrestling. They even like wrestling, man. So I think that's right. He understood the rules a little bit better, and I think he understood the action better, not the, you know what I mean? Well, I should have just kept wrestling. Yeah, that was my fault for not wrestling on the edge.
It's
so
interesting.
Rear naked choke. You were one bout away from facing Hoyler in the finals, which it was an incredible run. I mean, you came in as an alternate, and you wound up, match right before the finals. Like it's a hell of a run, man. Miguel, did you expect Joey to do this well?
We had seen his brother fight, and his brother, was a guy who had raised the hook and shoots level. Like, it was like, okay, that's a guy that, he's better than some of the guys I got on my roster and stuff like that right now, and I'd like to have him back. And I always knew that, like, credential wise, Joey was like the older brother, like the like more serious guy. So, I had hopes, and finishing third, probably exceeded those hopes though. So it was a good thing. And, when Joey thanked us at the very beginning, that feeling is mutual, because at that point, I'm very young in the business. I'm not a matchmaker that's got 10 years or whatever doing this stuff. And you start to feel, I do have an eye for this stuff. Joey made me look as good as I made him look, or, I put him in spots and he did what he did, made us both look good. So I thank him as well a great deal, because he was one of those early guys that helped put Indiana hook and shoot, and even maybe myself on the map for sure.
So Joey, your third place bout against Anthony Hamlet, you actually pulled guard to start that fight.
Oh yeah, because I want to get. That's because I wanted to sweep him and work on a salto sweep on him and stuff, and and we were hanging out the whole night before me and that guy, so I was kind of relaxed, And I seen him wrestle before, and he wrestled my friend, so I felt confidence in the match. I know he's a hell of a Greco-Roman wrestler. And he had, he was training with Matt Hume, right, at the time. That's how you say his name, right?
Yeah.
So he's a great catch wrestler. Understood catch wrestling. Other version of submission wrestling. But I just felt like I could take him down when I wanted. Control him when I wanted. And then I said, what the heck, man? Go out there and try to work on my jiu-jitsu a little bit with a wrestler, throw him off a little bit. Just having fun out there, man. That's all I was doing.
It threw me off. And it certainly must have thrown him off. So, Joey, you actually came in third place, definitely making a name for yourself. It was a hell of a run. And, Miguel, we always talk about, like, there's three ways to matchmake. You matchmake to build a fighter. You matchmake to, like, have the best fights. Or you matchmake to have somebody beat. But when it comes to like a tournament and grappling, you can also kind of like throw hand grenades into the mix to where, hey man, this guy's got some specialized talent. Let's see where he goes. If it goes off, let's see who the shrapnel hits. And I felt that both you and Anthony Hamlet were kind of like Miguel's little grenades that he threw into that tournament. And you guys wrestled for third and fourth. You guys fought for third and fourth.
Yeah. But, you know, he's a tough kid. He had some big wins, too, that guy. He beat Hawk,
Yeah,
right?
Abe.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's one of the first guys really.
Both of them helped put, like in Abu Dhabi, I sincerely believe if before they left Abu Dhabi, like by 2003, they were in Brazil. But like if we had consistently seen every tournament won by Brazilians, they may have actually petered out on that tournament. I think the fact that it blew up and international people stepped up, Gilbert and Hamlet, American wrestlers, you know, you can name also maybe, you know, John Olav Edmo. Now you had a Norwegian guy, Mark Robinson, now a South African guy. Now all of a sudden that global vision is starting to come forth. You know what I mean? And yeah, in the 145-pound division, that just at the very beginning, they couldn't fill it. Two guys popped up in the money. Like the Brazilians still, you know, the Brazilians still think they should finish 1, 2, 3 in that, and probably did afterwards. You know what I mean? So it was a big hand grenade because, you know, they knew they weren't going to touch Kerr, but they felt these guys were intruding in their territory.
Oh, yeah.
Joey, did you notice was there any, I can see a little resentment or any dirty looks or anything from the other players in regards to how well you performed?
No. I think I got a lot of great relationships out of it. I think those guys as much as I respect them, I think they respect me. You know, I always got along with those guys, man. I talked to those guys after the matches. I think I earned the respect, you know, for sure. I never had any resentment. Felt like I had resentment from the Brazilians. You know, I enjoyed them. They were some of the coolest guys I ever met, man.
Yeah. Well, you gotta look at it this way. You guys are almost cut from the same cloth. You both participated in a sport that you never thought would make any money on, and you gave your entire life to it. And then all of a sudden, MMA comes around where you're already established yourself as a wrestler. It kind of eliminated the phonies on both sides. You know, there wasn't a lot of fat to trim. It was just everybody was hard at that level.
Oh, yeah, man, I think it's the greatest thing to me, man. Like, submission wrestling is my favorite wrestling of all time, and to get to participate in the world championship and everybody just like bringing all their different type of styles into it, and they turn one grappling style so everything works for everybody. It's unbelievable, man. And you get to compete against these Brazilians, the guys, you know, back in the early 90s, we only read about it. You know, and then like, man, I was kind of scared, like, man, I don't want to get choked out. Because I remember I was a young kid, man, and I was wrestling around with this Korean coach at this, you know, practice, and the guy put me in a triangle, and I get choked. Man, I know what the heck a triangle was. And that's the second time. I got put in a triangle earlier one time in the Midlands. I don't think the guy knew he had a triangle, but, you know, like, man, this shit, it was scary stuff, man. And these guys have been doing it their whole lives. But it was, you know, interesting. You got a chance to put your wrestling against it. And that was what's great about the Abu Dhabi, you know.
It's excellent. So, Miguel, there's the 2000s ADCC. Joey, you're going to stick around. We're going to cover you next year. And, you know, as a tribute, Miguel, as to yourself, you're an East Coast guy. Us Midwestern people always thought that the East and West Coast always kind of had more advantages than us or more opportunities than us. You being an East Coast transplant, the fight community here kind of accepted, I'm not going to say kind of, they absolutely accepted you as one of us because you would continuously pull talent from this area and put them in spots that they actually deserve to be in. And that's a tribute to yourself. Joey being one of them.
You know, I appreciate that. Like I said, certain guys make the job easy. You know, like when Gilbert says he's going to show up at 145, I may have worried about it, but I now know I didn't have to worry about it. I mean, the guy, you know, stuff, little things like that. The other thing I wanted to mention before we get into the 2001 tournament, that in Abu Dhabi, we talked about during the Mark Kerr pieces that we did about Kerr's mind games and the way to slow the match down and how, you know, to even get the Brazilians to stop, get their attention with stuff like playing with his eye or trying to get hair out of his mouth and stuff. Little games like that. Now, Gilbert, to me, had like a much more sophisticated game. And as you said, he played the edges a lot. So a lot of the time in Gilbert's matches, there were resets, and they put him in the middle. And Gilbert, I think he did this on purpose. I'm getting to ask him now for the first time, but he did it multiple times. And once you start seeing it again and again, so he stands up, you come over and go, and the Brazilian would lay down in front of him for a position, and Joey would just turn around and go and point like in front of him now, and the Brazilian would have to get up and reposition himself, and he would just kind of control and make him do that. And to me, it's very interesting because it is a control move. You know, I wouldn't get up. It's like I remember thinking, I said, why would he get up? And they would, but it was like they would get up and sit in front of him and stuff. And is that something that you developed in wrestling, or am I fantasizing that you did that on purpose?
Well, I don't know, man. I think this trying to have the guy use extra energy, man, at times would, trying to get myself in the best position too.
And it's mental.
Edge and, but those guys are fighting for the same thing in Brazil, man. And I felt, I think sometimes the ref was a little biased for the Brazilians, but you gotta do what you gotta do, man. I like showmanship too, man. It's by, from the professional wrestling days or something, man. This guy has some showmanship out there too, and like, yeah, right. You want to mess with him a little bit mentally.
But with Joey, it's also mentally telling them, no, you're going to do what it is I want you to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I always put more of the effort in too. I'm the one that's bringing the action, at the right time.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent. So Miguel, that wraps up 2000. We will be right back. We're going to, probably next week, we're going to air the 2001 showing where we talk about the Peshao fight. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.